This program is made possible by a grant from Wachovia Bank and Trust Company.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's basketball season again, and North Carolina people is in William Neal Reynolds Coliseum, and we want you to meet Coach Jim Valvano of North Carolina State's Wolfpack. How are you, Jim?
Very good and happy to be here today.
Well, this is your second year in the ACC. Was it all that you thought it would be?
Well, I feel like it's about my 10th year. So you go 1 year in this league and you know you've been through something. I think that it was more in a lot of ways than I thought it would be. Bill Foster, who was the coach at Duke and now at South Carolina, I was his assistant for a couple of years, and I played for him. And I talked with him about coming here, and he said, I can't tell you. You know, you've got to experience that. And there's no question that's 100% true. I think the thing that I found to be most pleasant, though, was the thing that I thought was going to be most unpleasant. That is the fans. Everyone had told me you go to this place, that place, and it's tough to play. I didn't find that to be true. I found every place exhilarating to play. I found the fans to be supportive of their home team, which is the way it's supposed to be. And they didn't spend too much time getting on my ball club or on me. And I think it's the best league in the country because of that.
But Jim, you did most of your playing in the Northeast, and you did all your coaching before NC State in the Northeast. What's the great difference between the crowd there and here?
I think that in the North you've got, let's say, as you can tell, you know, I was born in Mississippi, and you can tell that, can't you? I was born in Queens, New York, and there you've got the Knicks, the Nets, the Jets, the Rangers, the Islanders, the Hawks, the Palos, the Cosmos. You have so much pros. The college ball is somewhere on, you know, page 5 or 6, or it just gets big for the big games, like where I came from. We'd play Louisville in Madison Square Garden, and then people would dress up for that one. But the other games weren't followed. You come here, and thankfully, there are no professional teams, and there's a genuine love of and support for your school first, and then the teams that represent them, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever. And basketball kind of special, as this place is kind of special. The ACC is kind of special. So it's, to me, a thrill every time I walk in this building and every time I walk into an ACC game, and mainly because of the people who support the programs.
Well, now, speaking of this place, you know, you can't sit here if you're a basketball fan in North Carolina. There's a roll call of names that floods by, Dickey, Ranzino, Spate, on down to David Thompson, and then your teams now. What about the Wolfpack this season?
I get goosebumps when I'm down in the locker room, and I just sent the club up on the floor, and you hear da 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 da, and when I sit here, and I do all of my recruiting in here. If I were recruiting you right now, right? Do you have any eligibility left, incidentally?
Gone.
Gone. Okay. We'd sit here and just take a look at the banners and Everett Case, who really started basketball in the South, and I say there have been more All-Americans played in this facility, I believe, than any facility in the United States of America. The tradition is here, and it's just an exciting thing. And this Wolfpack team this year, I hope, will be representative of that. I tell our kids, it's too much nowadays where young people feel almost they're doing you a favor, you know, when they're playing. And I tell them down in the locker room, every time we run up here, it's a privilege to have State on your chest. It's a privilege to play in this league, and it's a privilege to play in this facility. I like our clubs to reflect that attitude. And this year's team, I think, will do so with a number of players, starting with a young man by the name of Sidney Lowe, who, if there's a better player with the basketball than Sidney Lowe in the country, then, you know, I'd like to see him because he's a whale of a player. Sidney, Derek Wittenberg, Thurl Bailey, those are the names that the fans are going to really follow most. Those are our 3 juniors and our veterans. I think, though, the most popular player we have here is 7'5" Chuck Nevitt. And he draws, as soon as you mention his name, the most response. He's worked very hard. He's lifted weights. I've had him on my Italian food diet, a lot of pasta, eat as much as you can, gain some weight. He's up to about 220 pounds. And if he has a good year, and Scott Parsich has a good year, we're going to have a good year. But that's why you have a scoreboard. Nobody knows what's going to happen, and we're excited about it, though.
I've noticed that the games I've seen over here that there are times when the students help you decide when Chuck gets to play.
Oh, that was last year. Never, you know, and Chuck would be looking at me, I'd be looking at him and say, I'd give him the signal, the place would erupt. But that was when he was a 2-minute player, you know, where he'd go in at the end and they'd want him to make 2 dunks and cheer and make a foul shot. You know, he'd make a foul shot, the place would go crazy. That's a little different. Chuck is a starter in the Atlantic Coast Conference, and he's got to go up against the Perkinses and the Worthies and the Sampsons and those players. And Chuck has become a lot more serious about it, and it's just great. That's one of the great things about college coaching is watch a player like that develop. And his last 2 games last year, here against Wake Forest, the last game of the year, senior day, and Chuck had 10 points and about 8 rebounds. Then against Carolina in the ACC tournament, he became a player. He said now I know why I'm running around out here with short pants on. You know, he said, I think I can do it. And he's had that attitude, and it's great to watch. I think 3 or 4 years from now is when he's going to reach his full potential, though.
Jim, unlike years past, you read so much today and know so much about the fact that the players are great friends, whatever schools. They seem to know each other in ways they didn't in the past, and there's a camaraderie, although they're fiercely competitive with each other. Is this what you found?
I think that's happened a great deal because of, number one, TV. They get to see each other play often. Then number 2, the basketball camps in the summer, where for example, I had Vince Taylor from Duke work at my camp last year. I had a number of players from Furman. I had some kids from Maryland, Stevie Rivers from Maryland, and I got to know them. My players might have been here. They get to know each other on a personal basis, and sometimes that's good. Sometimes what happens is I get to know Vince well, and he wants to do even better against me. He's like, I'm gonna shake your hand and say, "Hi, Coach, how you doing? How's the wife and kids?" And then they throw in 35 on you. You know? But yeah, that's happened. I think the kids knew each other also from high school, where the tournaments, there was such a proliferation of tournaments around the country, and these kids got to play with each other, and then they'd follow each other, work at camps. I think that's good. I think that's good because the competitiveness is still there, but afterwards there's that feeling of, as you mentioned, camaraderie, and they want each other to do well, and they follow each other right to the pros. I think it's a good sign.
You've moved around this region an awful lot. Have you gotten used to barbecue and chicken?
When I first came here, I said I was 35 years old, and I had never had barbecue. Can you believe that? Never had barbecue. Well, I went to about 35 Wolfpack meetings in my first 2 months here, and I had barbecue about 32 times. So I am very familiar with pork barbecue, and in fact, I mentioned that in one of the papers, I said the best barbecue I had had was at Wilbur's in Goldsboro. Have you ever had down there?
Yes.
It's terrific. Well, I said that, and then a lot of people took offense, and I got sent to me an entire shoulder from Lexington, and I've had more barbecue than I think I'm supposed to have. You know, I think I've reached my quota.
Right.
But the great thing about what's happened for me and my family is I have gotten to know the state well, and I've gotten to know the people well. And I say all the time, and I mean it very sincerely, I'm proud to be coaching at North Carolina State, and I'm just as proud to be living in the state of North Carolina. It's a great place to live.
Well, we're all excited about having you and your family here, Jim. Let's go back to these athletes and a statement made by one of your contemporaries recently about recruiting in the United States today. He almost suggested it's about to get out of hand again. Is this happening?
It is certainly, Bill, a very major concern for all of us right now. The NCAA is attempting to put some restrictions on it. For example, they've had recruiting seasons now. It used to be open season. You could go, when I first got in this profession 15 years ago, a youngster could take as many visits as he wanted to. So you'd be talking to a young man, and he'd say, well, he has 16 lined up already, you know, and Hawaii was always on it.
Yeah.
You know, he always was going there, and it was almost impossible. The NCAA cut that back and said a young man can only take 6, added some sanity. Then they went to the next step, where you'd read about coaches living on kids' doorsteps, taking motel rooms next to kids. We're talking about 17-year-old youngsters, and we're making them heroes in an adult world, not just the world of their own peer group. So the NCAA cut that back and said you could only see a young man 3 times. And that was a good rule. Now they've gone one step further, and they've made recruiting times. So from October 1st until December 1st, we haven't been allowed to leave campus. We've had to stay on campus. That's a good sign. We got to know the kids we recruited better. We helped them academically and socially and every other way that youngsters have a problem when they leave home for the first time. But what's happening is the pressure to win becomes so intense that the pressure, especially in basketball, where one player can just turn a program around, that even with these guidelines, we've gotten to the point again where going after that particular superstar sometimes takes the proportions which are unbelievable, the efforts of coaches, alumni, and these groups and that groups. I think we've got to pull back again, and I think the NCAA is approaching that and get back to what it's supposed to be, student-athlete. Student first, athlete second. When the ACC had the old 800 rule, where you had to get 800 on your boards, it's a great rule. I mean, what you're doing is getting kids who, on a standardized test, showed a certain amount of, ability. Now, maybe the test needed to be revised, but the principle was a good one. So the NCAA's gone back to, although there's no standard prior to admittance, once you are admitted, you must get 24 hours of credit passed in your major field each year, otherwise you're ineligible. I think all of these rules are going to get us back online, where it's still going to be tremendously competitive, because winning will always be important in any competitive venture. But I think we're going to get back to having students who are there to get an education first, play basketball and represent the school well second. And I think when that happens, it's going to be, again, a better game for all concerned.
You speak of the education first. Now, does that mean that when a young man is recruited by you and he chooses to come, he enters into a pretty well-ordered life while he's competing that particular semester, doesn't he, Jim? I mean,
Yes.
Study halls, things like that.
I've been, when people ask me my record, I always say the same thing. I've had 3 kids not graduate in 11 years of being a head coach. Maybe if I had a better one-loss record, I'd say I'd throw that in too. I don't know, but I'm very proud of that. I think that it's to me, one of the most important aspects of what I do for a living. I was an English major, at Rutgers University, and did graduate work in education, and I'm proud of my background academically. I want our kids to understand that too, that as they go towards the senior year, basketball will become a little less important in their lives, and the academic endeavors and what they're going to do the rest of their life becomes paramount to them. Now, that doesn't mean that basketball isn't important to them, but they're at that age where they can juggle more things and be able to approach getting out into the world, and hopefully, as I tell them, they'll find something with their life that they're going to enjoy as much as I do in basketball. But freshman year, you have to sit on it a little bit more, and you have to tell them, we'd like you at a study hall 3 nights a week, and because at that point they're so caught up in all of this. They're caught up in ACC basketball tradition and newspapers and media coverage and this, that, and the other thing, that sometimes they're not as concerned with Philosophy 101 or their engineering course or English. And so I think it's important and incumbent upon the coach and his staff to do that. So we have tutors and study halls, and I try to, I think also it comes from the head coach too, that I think it's important. I think it's important how they handle the press and how they speak and how they're viewed in public. So academics has always been number one with me. And my dream is to win a national championship. We have another banner like the one hanging up there, but do it with 5 kids who are going to graduate on time, and go out into the world and say that NC State helped make them their lives a little happier, and then contribute back to our program, which always helps.
You touched on something that is also talked about a lot today. Probably started with the professional NBA group first. Overexposure, that is too much television. Is this beginning to creep into the collegiate ring too?
No question. What happened is, in our free marketplace, is the TV stations started to just knock each other out of the way to televise college basketball. College basketball, the growth of it in terms of popularity in the last 10 years has been phenomenal. Everyone felt getting in the NCAA tournament now was a viable aspect, a viable goal for their program. So they put a little bit more money into it. It's not as expensive a sport as others. And with the NCAA, a vehicle to get into it, the league champion gets an automatic bid in various leagues. We had a proliferation of teams, Division I. We went from a small group to almost 270-something schools in Division I. Then, with that, came the fans coming in, and then the increase in television. So then you had the ACC, which was one of the few leagues that was televised. Then you have everyone come up with a package: CBS, NBC, ESPN, USA Cable. Everybody came in for a piece of showing a product that people want to see. But obviously, when you start showing it that often, it's a lot easier sometimes to sit at home and not have to fight some of the traffic and the crowds, or you become more selective in the games you want to see. You say, I want to come and see State Carolina, State Duke, and Wake, and league games, but maybe I don't want to see a non-league game. Yeah, I am concerned about overexposure of our product. I think the NBA did that and is suffering because of it. Our game is at least 5 times better than a pro game, just in terms of, I think, when people come to watch it, the enthusiasm. So I think we should be careful with how much of it we show the public, otherwise we're going to lose a lot of the specialty we have of college sports. And that is, and everyone says, why do I coach? I'll tell you, very simply put, not getting too philosophical about it, I coach because of game day. When I walk up here and the band's playing and the cheerleaders are doing the backflips and the people are standing up and cheering, it's a special moment that I don't ever want to give up. And I'd hate to think that we'd become so, quotes, professional or professional-like that people wouldn't approach it that way anymore. We'd lose an awful lot of what Atlantic Coast Conference basketball is all about.
Well, there'll be 12,500 people in here that feel the same way you do.
Well, I hope so. I hope it never changes.
Where are you headed to the holiday tournament this year?
Gee, it's tough. It's a tough life. We have to go to Hawaii.
All the way to Hawaii.
Don't want to go there. We have to go to Hawaii, and we're leaving. I believe day before Christmas, or it might even be Christmas night, and it's a great trip for the kids and the coaches too, and some of our fans will be traveling with us.
Well, who are you going to take on out there?
Well, we play Michigan State in the first round, and if we win that game, we then play Wichita State, and Wichita State's been ranked in the top 5 in the country, and they had a great recruiting year, a 7-foot player from Wichita, and they have 2 other players right from that area, and they're expecting great team. Plus, they went last year to their regional semifinals and lost to, they lost to LSU. They were 1 game away from the Final Four, and they have the whole team back. And I better get going. I think I better get to work. So it's really tough. San Francisco's in the tournament. They just beat Georgia.
Georgia, that's right.
It's just an outstanding field, and you play 3 nights in a row, and then you come back, and we got Clemson right here, and then we play a game on Monday. We have 5 games in about 7 days, so it's going to be a tough time for us.
Is the result of all that goes on in recruiting and the number of scholarships you can award sort of evening things out in the circuit now?
Same thing that happened in football with the 30-30 rule, or whatever they call it, where you only can have 30 a year and a total of 90 in school, happened in basketball, and we went from 20 scholarships to 15. And then a lot of the so-called powers were able to recruit a player just so you didn't get them, and stockpile players, and then redshirt a player and let him play another year. But now you only have 15 scholarships a year, and without a freshman team, you have basically all 15 on your varsity, and some schools don't even have 15. Because it's tough to keep 15 kids, happy. You used to have 5 on a freshman team. So it's enabled kids, that plus freshman eligibility, when you can go out and show a youngster that you come here and you can play that spot for us and start next year and maybe be a star right now. Appeals to a lot of high school seniors. So all of that has made the game to where you pick up the paper and you see upsets every single day. They're not upsets anymore.
It's already happened.
Oh, definitely in our own league it's
That's
happened.
Right.
Richmond beat Wake Forest. Wake was ranked in the top 15 in the country, and a lot of people are struggling. I talked to a friend of mine who coaches at Penn State, and they beat Bloomsburg State by 1. And it's happening all over. So you got to be just got to be ready every night.
What's this about a dream you suppose have had with you as a senior coach being interviewed by Al McGuire and Billy Packer? What happened?
Well, I tell everybody I'm a dreamer. I really am a dreamer. I always have been. In fact, one of the formulas I tell our kids about what success is, I tell them you take yourself and you motivate yourself, and you're going to be successful. And what motivation to me is three things: being enthusiastic about what you do every day. I try and be enthusiastic every day, and I want our players to be. Second, I tell them is to have a dream, and third is to work your tail off. You do those three things, you got a shot at it. And dreaming, I tell them you should have real dreams.
Sure.
And I have one. I tell them is I want to be in the Final Four. That's all I've ever wanted to do. I've been coaching now 15 years. I want to be in that Final Four. And I said, and I want to be being interviewed by Billy Packer and Al McGuire right before the championship game. And you know how those two guys are. They'll say, Al will say, Billy, what do you think's going to happen this game? Then Billy tells you. You know, Billy says this game is going to be decided by the bench. Depends on how many points are going to be contributed by the bench. And if the bench can score 16.8 points tonight and get 7.4 rebounds, I think that club's going to win the game. And Al says, Billy, I'm tired of your ACC nonsense. He says the game's going to be decided by the aircraft carrier. Whoever has the aircraft carrier is going to get it done. They can say, let's ask Coach V.
You mean the 7 foot?
That's right. And Al's always, everything's his aircraft carrier. As Al would say, whoever has the aircraft carrier, they're going to be, they'll win and have seashells and balloons. That's Al's statement. He said the other club will be in Tap City.
Well,
So Al has his own language, right?
You might get that.
I hope so. Now they come to me and they say, let's ask the coach, see what he thinks. You know, Coach V, how do you think this game is going to turn out? And I want to turn to a national television audience and say, I don't have the slightest idea. I'm just happy to be here, you know. And
Well, I'm sort of, you know, they've broken up now.
I'm
there's
sad.
two major networks.
Because they really are excellent.
They really are.
They add both, you know, Billy, his technical, really technical aspect of the game, and Al, you know, gives that more of his own approach to basketball.
What do you expect in the ACC this season, Jim? When you get down to March?
Well, last year, you know, my first year in the league, we didn't fare as well as I would have liked to. But if the league was ever tougher, top to bottom, than it was last year, I'm glad I wasn't in that, because we had two teams in the Final Four. One, Carolina, in the final game. Virginia had its best season in school's history and the player of the year in Ralph Sampson. Wake Forest had its most wins since Carl Tacey. He's been there. Clemson had the most wins in its school's history. Need I go any further? Everybody was kind of on an upbeat. This year, I don't think the league is quite as tough, top to bottom, but it is a bit top-heavy in terms of our friends over in Chapel Hill. They're an outstanding basketball team. They're ranked number one, and I'm not saying this to put any pressure, you know, on Dean and his team. They really deserve it. In Perkins and Worthy, I think they have the two premier players inside on the same team, you know, in the country. And that's what this game's about. The game is won inside. It's an inside game first and then outside game. You can't live by the jump shot. And those two kids are just terrific. And it goes without saying, you know, they are obviously a well-coached and disciplined team, and they've been there before. So they are really the strongest club in our league. Sometimes that's a tough spot to be in because we're all going to take a shot at you. And there are enough people to take shots this year. And I think Wake Forest, I mentioned, although they had an early loss, a lot of times that comes because they have four seniors who've been there before and maybe took a game a little more lightly. That kind of wakes you up. It gets your attention. I expect them to come back really very strong now, and that'll be like a rallying cry. It's better that happens then than later in the year. So Wake with four seniors is going to be tough. Clemson's got everybody back again. I know that Duke lost a lot, but is going to play their style of ball. Maryland lost a lot, but Lefty's
he's always there.
That's right. He's always there, and I think we're going to be a much more improved team. And Georgia Tech, coaching change, enthusiasm right now. They opened up with a big win. Brooke Steppe is back, a player who was you know, an outstanding player. The league is going to be just as always. You know,
Well, now, in a given afternoon, when you bring your team up here on the floor to practice, is it a lengthy thing you do, or is it do you go at it strenuously for a while?
Pre-season, it's a good 2 hours. Once we start the season, we try to limit it to an hour and a half, and most of it is technical. It's a lot less of the running and shooting. We try to just to maintain what we've already reached. A lot of the practice now is preparing for our opponents. What style of ball do they play? Going over the scouting report, and then trying to refine a lot of the things that we're doing that we're not doing quite as well. You know, nowadays, again, when I first started coaching, you just play people. Now, I could tell you what they eat for breakfast, our opponents, before we play. We know when they're going to sub, who they're going to sub, tendencies. You know, it's really gotten to that point now. So we spend a lot of time getting our kids to understand when the opponents put up 3, we know exactly what they're going to do. You know, when they call up, they might yell red 22. We know exactly what's going to happen. So it's a lot more mental game than I think a lot of the fans might think. And then the execution is what it's all about. And you hope you don't have to say what John McKay said, the coach of Tampa Bay, when the writers asked him one day, what do you think about your team's execution after a game? He said, I'm in favor of it. You know?
But what you're really saying is that concentration is the word then.
Yep, and that's when you recruit. You're looking for players who have that kind of court presence, court awareness. They have character, some intelligence, and they can maintain that concentration. We have, every once in a while, a drill we call intensity drill. And we'll try to take an aspect of the game and do it for a minute. That doesn't sound like much, but you try and concentrate on a particular aspect of defense and do it hard for a minute, and the kids realize just how tough this game is then. You try and play defense, say just a man-to-man pressure type half-court game on the clock for 1 solid minute. At the end of the minute, the kids realize we have to do that 40 minutes. And the better players are the ones who have very few lapses of that concentration. And that's what your goal is. You're trying to get 40 minutes of it.
When you go around the state, do people just stop you and say, gee, why did you put that guy in? You know, you got a lot of coaches available.
Oh yeah, it usually starts by saying, I don't want to criticize you, and then here it comes, you know, or I don't want to say I'm not a coach, but, and then here it comes. Yeah, but I was a fan before I was a coach. I actually liked it. I don't find those things offensive or. That's why people come. I sit up during Monty Kiffin's football games, you know, up there, and I coach my brains out. You know, I'm just like everybody else. Then I want to know, let's fake it and throw long. Let's do this. And we're all like that. If you like sports, and I certainly do. And in fact, I welcome those opportunities because generally now I can give them a side that maybe they hadn't thought of. Because what I always like to tell them then is, you can coach. I don't know. Maybe you can. But I do know that when you're with the kids every day, you have more input in your computer up there than that fellow has available to him. So we did this because of this reason. And the guy said, generally he'll, or she, he or she will generally accept it and say, okay, I think the worst thing is to not respond or not give them that vehicle. And that's why, as we mentioned before the show, I told you I'm going around the state this year and do about 30 clinics around the state to meet the people and have them take a shot at me.
That'd be fun for you.
Well, so.
We've run out of time, Jim, but North Carolina people thanks you for coming down here on the floor at Reynolds Coliseum and visiting with us this particular evening.
Well, it's been a pleasure. I think we should go an hour show, though.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This program was made possible by a grant from Wachovia Bank and Trust Company.